and women conscious of this? Yes, very much so. And by the way, let me insert, the best way to respect a wife is to meet her need to feel love for who she is. And the best way to love a husband is meet his need to feel respected for who he is, apart from his performance and apart from her performance. It's a love that we show toward her spirit. It's a respect we show toward his spirit. It is not a respect that gives license to wicked behavior. It's not love that you give to a woman and say, I just love the fact that you're bulimic. I just respect the fact that you have a problem with anger. That's ludicrous. It's our demeanor of being a dignified, respectful woman. It's our demeanor of being a compassionate, loving man. And we send the message of respect and love to the spirit of that person, even though they're unworthy of that. Because if we're going to confront the unloving behavior, if we're going to confront the disrespectful behavior, we must do it in a loving, respectful way. We will point out that you cannot be contemptuous and disrespectful and motivate another person to be loving. And you cannot be unloving and motivate a person to be respectful. But is she conscious of her need for love, and is he conscious of his need for respect? Yes, women are conscious, very conscious of their need for love. Let's just think for a moment. It's the 5th anniversary, and he comes home and he says, hey, I've saved a lot of money for our 5th anniversary, and I want to take you out to dinner. Where do you want to go? Oh, I don't know. No. I want to take you out to dinner. This is going to be our night. It's our 5th. I've been saving up for this secretly. Where do you want to go out to eat? I don't know. No, come on, tell me where you want to go out to eat. I don't know, you decide. You want me to decide? Mm-hmm. No, I want to take you where you want to go. Where do you want to go? You decide. Really? Mm-hmm. Hey, I was reading in that Colorado magazine that they said the juiciest steaks, I mean, they say that you don't even have to use a knife. You can just take your fork and come right down to it. I mean, these fillets are absolutely... You know that truck stop out on the highway? I don't want to go there. Are you the woman I was just talking to? I asked where you want to go, and you tell me to decide, so now I decide, and you decide against what I decided, because you're always deciding. You just pick a fight. And then both of them are so angry at that moment, they stomp off from one another in 132 seconds, and their whole 5th anniversary meal has gone out the window. I mean, they're steaming mad, and they're saying, this is crazy. What's going on there? What's going on there? Well, I'll tell you what's going on in the pink brain. Here's what the pink brain is feeling and thinking at a moment like that, and your daughter is going to be the same way. Jesus said, have you not read who made them from the beginning, made them male and female? There are differences. But I'll tell you what's going on in her brain. Pink is thinking this: if he loves me as much as I love him, he'll figure out where it is I want to go without me having to tell him. Is that true, ladies? Yeah. It's moments like that that she seeks reassurance. She's seeking reassurance. She's not trying to test per se to get him to flunk the test. She's hoping that he will come up with this and so she can feel his love. That's the way she processes it. What does Blue think at a moment? What's going on in his blue brain after that event? How does he process it? She lied. Who's right? Yes. It just depends on whether you videotape in pink or videotape in blue. But what's interesting is that we tend to pass judgment on the other. Why? Because what we're going to point out is that when a wife has certain areas of vulnerability, like in the area of the diet book and body image issues, God hasn't allowed us to have those same vulnerabilities by nature. So it's so easy for us to pass judgment on our spouse. Why? Because where I'm strong, she has vulnerabilities, and it's so easy for me to dismiss her as childish. And going, see, if I ever buy you a diet book again. We pass judgment on other people based on our strengths and their weaknesses. And it's so easy to pass judgment on your husband when he doesn't want to read the third marriage book and he stonewalls it, and that feels so unloving to you. So easy. Why? Because God put something within your nature to not hear the same message that he hears. So it's so easy when he has vulnerabilities where you have strengths to pass judgment on him and say, it's all about you. It's always all about you. You're so arrogant, so childish. Your daughter-in-law is going to say that about your baby boy that you nursed at your breast, and he's a good-willed boy, but he's going to shut down. And you know why she's saying it to him, but he won't. And every man here knows why he does what he does toward his wife over the diet book. You were just trying to be helpful, but she comes back to you like a flamethrower. And you knew you were trying to be helpful, but all the guys. So we all know our own blue nature. We know our own pink nature, and we can see it. We can watch it. But she is conscious of her need to be loved. And he's conscious of his need to be respected. Shaunti Feldhahn, a good friend who's written a book called For Women Only and is also coming out with some new research, but she researched 400 men in a random sample, great sample. Houston, there's a group called Decision Analysts in Houston, and they did this research, a secular group, and she had called me before, and she said, tell me some questions. And I said, well, here's one question that I think you should ask these 400 men, secular group. When you're in a conflict with your wife or significant other, do you feel that she doesn't love you at that moment or she doesn't respect you at that moment? 82% of those men said they don't feel respected. The secular researchers were blown away by that. It didn't compute with them. Men are very conscious of their need to be respected. Why? Do they not need love? No, but they tend to be assured of a woman's love because she loves to love, and women say, I love you all the time. And if he were to get insecure at one time and say, you don't love me, that's an affront to her character, and she'd say, I do too love you. Don't you talk that way to me. Can't believe you'd say that. Because if you listen to women's language all the time, love you, bye honey, love, 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 love you, love, love, love you, love, love you, love you, love you, love, love, love. Listen to the conversation. It comes out of your nature. So he tends to be assured of your love, but he's not assured that you like him or respect him. Especially when you say, I love you a ton, but I don't respect you right now. That's a good clue as to why he feels disrespected. But he's very conscious of this during conflict. He filters things through a blue lens. Not wrong, he's just different. Students, blue is wrong. No. Just different. Also, Shaunti asked this question of these 400. Would you rather be left alone and unloved in the world, 400 men, or would you rather be viewed as inadequate and disrespected by everyone? Don't get ahead of me. He already knew the answer. Wait a minute, let's go over it again. Would you rather be left alone and unloved in the world, or would you rather be viewed as inadequate and disrespected by everyone? And 74% of these guys said they'd rather be left alone and unloved in the world. See, men cannot handle the thought that you view them inadequately and don't respect them. This is huge. And decision analysts, these people were, this is unbelievable. And this is in a culture that knows what it means to be politically correct. So really the findings are probably even higher because they knew, well, the right answer should be love. Many guys are, what should I say, dear? Okay. But here's what we have discovered, that when a wife feels unloved, you buy her diet book, she tends to react in negative ways that end up feeling disrespectful to him. And when a husband feels disrespected, you buy the third marriage book for him, he tends to negatively react in ways that feel unloving to her. And this is what I saw in the Scripture. I had the privilege of studying the Bible 30 hours a week for nearly 20 years as a senior pastor of a church. And so I had this great privilege of looking at everything in the Scripture dealing with marriage. But then as I was meditating on Ephesians 5:33, it was an amazing thing. If the husband's commanded to love, it must mean that she needs love. And I thought to myself, that's true. So what happens when she feels unloved? And I went, whoa! I'll bet she reacts in ways that feel disrespectful to him, which is why she's commanded to put on respect. Well, what does a husband feel when he's disrespected? Well, he feels the need isn't being met, and he tends to negatively react. How might he negatively react? Whoa, I'll bet he reacts in ways that feel unloving to her because that's why he's commanded to love. And thus was born what I call the crazy cycle. Without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. And then without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. And without love, she reacts without respect. And this baby starts to spin, and it gets crazy. And have you ever had a conflict with your spouse when suddenly you sense the issue was no longer the issue? And you see their spirit deflate? Think back. When their spirit deflates, you just stood on their air hose. But what is interesting at that moment, you go, oh, brother, now what did I say? Now what did I do? You see, we don't know a lot of times what's going on here, but what we're going to share with you, there's usually just one thing going on in her spirit and one thing in his spirit. And all you have to do is remember one thing. Guys, all you have to remember is one thing. Gals, one thing. And I'm going to share that when the issue isn't the issue, you can be talking about a lot of stuff, but when suddenly you sense her spirit deflate, you just stepped on our air hose, and my prediction is that she is feeling unloved. And you can also predict that she's going to negatively react. Get off my air hose, you big elephant. But she's going to react in such a way that comes across to you as very disrespectfully when she says you men have two brains, one's lost and the other's out looking for it. And at a certain point, you no longer hear the deeper cry of her heart, which is, I need reassurance that you love me. I just need reassurance that you love me. You know, you matter to me more than anybody in the whole world, and you're the only one that can meet my deepest need, and I'm really insecure right now. But she will choose reactions that can be so offensive to us that we don't hear that cry. We don't decode. You see, without love, defensively, she reacts offensively without respect. And some guys are right now saying, wow, Emerson, you're finally putting a voice and vocabulary to everything that I've been feeling. That woman is disrespectful. You're exactly right. And she's offensive. And she's negative. And I'm going to get her third broom. Time out. Wrong. The actual truth is she's crying out for love. She's not trying to be disrespectful. And we're going to help you understand that. We're going to decode, and you'll find me repeating. I'm throwing out concepts, and we'll come back to all of this. But you're getting an idea that this is pretty simple, and it seems to resonate with where we all live. And you're not alone, and you're not abnormal. You're just like the rest of us. And that should give you hope. Also, without respect, defensively, he reacts offensively without love. And some of you women say, that's right, we women get together in our pink huddles and we talk about this male behavior and it makes no sense to us. These men are not positive. There's just this negativity. They're moody. They're offensive. There's no love. And women actually are divorcing 2 to 3 times more than men are now. Did you know that? The walk-away woman is becoming an epidemic, and you women are fed up. You're not mean-spirited. You're just mad and bitter and disillusioned. And you're just walking away because you're interpreting the behavior through your pink grid. But I'm going to tell you that without respect, defensively, he reacts. And what he's saying is, what happened to the glow? At our marriage, you used to look up to me and used to believe in me and used to admire me and used to respect me and you were going to come alongside of me and you were my cheerleader. Now you tell me that you love me, but you don't like me. Now you tell me that you love me, but you don't respect me. I'm losing energy. I don't have fond feelings of love and affection in my heart toward a woman who despises who I am as a human being. I don't want to connect with you. I got to calm myself down. He's not trying to say, I don't love you. What he's trying to say is, I need something from you that only you can give me. And that's what your son is going to say. And of course, that's what your daughter's going to say. And the question is, will their spouse decode? At the present rate, you will have grandchildren who will be crying themselves to sleep at night like I did. I was born in 1951. My mom and dad divorced one another when I was 1 year old, and then they came back together in marriage, for which I'm very grateful. They remarried one another, but then they immediately separated for the next several years. So all through my developmental years, mom and dad were separated. And I wet the bed until I was 11. I can remember crying myself to sleep at night, many a night, and I was eventually sent to a military school at age 13 and was there until age 18. And so I come with woundedness. But God is using that to, I think, serve people who have gone through the same thing. And mom and dad were good-willed, and they were on the crazy cycle. They're now both in heaven. But without love, mom tended to react in ways that felt disrespectful to dad. And when dad felt disrespected, he reacted in ways that felt unloving to mom. And neither one intended to bring that offensive message. They were both trying to get a message through the other and hope that the other would decode. But they didn't, and they were on the crazy cycle. And it was spinning out of control. And that's exactly where some of you are at. Turn in your book and you'll see that crazy cycle. And if we can have the lights up in the back so people can maybe see and even fill in the blanks if that's possible. And in fact, let's say in unison that crazy cycle, if we can, starts at 12 o'clock. Without love, she reacts without respect. And then start at 6 o'clock again. Without respect, he reacts without love. Let's say it again. Without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. One more time. Without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. And it gets what? Crazy. And it spins and spins. You see, it triggers itself. You see how it triggers itself? And the question is, will we decode? You know, this story really is true. It happened on a subway. Stephen Covey talks about it happening to him. But I want to take the true story, so to speak, and put it on a bus and bring you into the bus with me. And we are on this bus. 40 people are going to do a red-eye special all across, the state, and going to be somewhere in the next morning. And we're going to leave the driving to Greyhound, but we're waiting because there are 4 seats that are still vacant. And so we're waiting. Finally, here come the 4 passengers. It's the father and the 3 children. And the father comes down the aisle and comes in front of your seat and sits down by the window and starts staring out the window. The bus door closes. The bus starts to roll down the highway. You lean back. A lot of you are going to get a little sleep, shut-eye. But you suddenly hear one of the children up front scream. And then the other one screams. And then they all 3 run down the aisle. And you sit up and you see them elbow one of the passengers who just can't believe that has happened. And you look over at the father. He's staring out the window. He ain't doing a thing. He's just staring out the window. And the kids are out of control. This is unbelievable. You set up, everybody sets up, and people look back at you. They're looking at Father. There's anger, daggers in their eyes. It's chaotic, and we haven't even been 2 minutes down the road. And the dad's not even doing anything. These kids are running. This is unbelievable. And finally, everybody looks at you because you're right behind the Father, and there's this silent vote with everybody's eyes that they make you the chairperson to get the Father's attention. Sir, what? Your children, they're running up and down the aisle. It's chaotic. We just got off this, we're going down the road, just started. It's going to be an all-night spend. Would you have your children sit down and be quiet? I can't believe it, they're out of control. And he looks at you, and then he sees the daggers in everybody else's eyes, and he goes, I'm sorry, sir. Everybody, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive them. We just came from the hospital. My wife, their mother just died. Now, where did your feelings go? They went from irritation, anger, frustration, right? And flip-flopped in a nanosecond to empathy, compassion, understanding, measure of guilt. Right? How did that happen? Your emotions flip-flopped just that quick. Whoa! Everything changed. But nothing changed. Everything changed, but nothing changed. How did that just happen? Well, you got a little piece of information that helped you decode. You see, up to this point, we were bringing to this event our experience, our former experience. I know why that dad is acting the way he is. He's a liberal, permissive parent. We know the profile. We've been there before. And those children are out of control. They're anti-adult. Can't believe it. If they were my kids for 3 weeks, this wouldn't be going on. This is why America has so many problems. So here we see this feeling that we have. We know our feelings. In fact, we bring to that event our experience, and we feel offended. And because I feel offended, that person, in fact, is offensive. My feelings are the voice of God. If I feel offended, you're offensive. 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 Oh, but wait a minute. Up to that point, everything seemed normal, but there's just one slight problem with that conclusion. We were wrong. Other than that, I guess it's okay. We were wrong. But then we got a little piece of information that his wife, his lover, had died. And with that information, we decoded and we reinterpreted this whole behavior on his part and the children's part. And suddenly we realized why he was staring out the window. He was in shock. He was in shock. He lost his lover. And children will act out when they lose their mommy because we never lost our mommy before. And suddenly, with that little piece of information on this bus ride, we decoded and everything changed, though nothing changed. Now, you're on a marital bus ride. And could it be that as a result of your time here tonight and tomorrow, that Sarah and I share some information with you, little pieces of information that enable you to decode? Everything changes. But nothing will change. Everything will change, but nothing will change. But right now, you're bringing to your marriage your experience, and you're feeling offended by your spouse who stonewalls you. You're feeling offended by your spouse who runs up and down the marital bus ride spasmodically wild. And you're taking up offense. And you're bringing to the way they react to things. You would never react that way because you would never react the way they react. Not thinking that God made us different, we just think that we should respond the same way. You know, if you would just be like me, everything would be okay. And because they're reacting in a stonewalling way, let's say at the level of intimacy, which I would never do, therefore I feel offended, and I know for a fact that they're offensive. Or this unbelievable negative emotion just coming at the person. I would never do that. I just can't believe that. So because I feel offended, you in fact are offensive. But that's just a flat-out lie. We are dead wrong unless we have clear facts. That's why Jesus said, let every fact be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. But today, as long as we have one person who tells us what they feel, we don't go any further than that. This is happening on the radio programs, it's happening in talk shows, it's happening in counseling, it's just happening all over among friends. One person shares their feelings, and that's it. And Proverbs 18:17 says you listen to both sides. And Jesus and the apostles say you must make sure that you get the facts. Because if you go on feelings, you're going to mislead, and you're going to be misled. This is a huge issue. But let's take a look then at this idea of his and her deepest need and value. Turn to number 1 there. What is the deepest value or need? In the diet book, she hears, I don't love you. But as we point out, that probably isn't what he's trying to say to her. And in the marriage book, he hears, I don't respect you. That third marriage book he receives, but my prediction is that's not what she's trying to say at all. And this is based on Ephesians 5:33. Nevertheless, let each individual among you also love his own wife, even as himself, and let the wife see to it that she respect her husband. So here you see this verse, and this verse does not say, nevertheless, let each individual among you also love his own wife, even as himself, and let the wife see to it that she respect her husband only after he first loves her. And it doesn't say, nevertheless, let each individual among you also love his own wife unconditionally, and let the wife see to it that she respect her husband only after he's earned it and deserved it. It's very important that we understand what's being said here. Because today, in this culture, lady, here's what you're up against. First of all, women are thinking, what are you talking about, respect? What are you talking about? This is so foreign. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And isn't love and respect the same? Well, no, you already know that's not because you're telling that you love him but don't respect him. So they're not synonymous, and you know that. And you respect your boss, but you don't love your boss. They're different. So they're different. They're not the same. But today, here's where the women are at. In fact, during the break, the women are going to want to turn to the husbands. Sir, your wife is going to say to you, is that how you feel? You see, this is what she wants. She's in complete disbelief so far. She's thinking, respect? What is this? Surely that's not how he feels. So she's going to turn to you because she's going to want you to say to her, that's not how you feel. And so she's going to say, is that how you feel? Gentlemen, don't say this. What do you think I've been trying to tell you for 14 years, woman? I don't think that's very effective. Instead, I would approach it this way. What he says makes perfect sense, honey, but, I want to better understand what it means to love you. But what we're up against, ladies, and you'll see this, and your own daughter-in-law will have these feelings toward your son, your sweet son. But I'm going to tell you, this is what's going to happen. She's going to say about your son, or some of you women are saying right now about your husbands, well, Dr. Emerson, I don't feel any respect for him when he doesn't love me in ways that are meaningful to me. And, he's not superior to me. And that's the dictionary definition of respect. You show respect toward your superiors. He's not superior to me. I'm not inferior to him. I'm not going to be treated like a doormat. I'm not going to be treated in a subservient way. He hasn't earned the respect. He doesn't deserve the respect. And he could emotionally abuse me. But other than that, Dr. Emerson, I'm open to hearing what you have to say. Ladies, that's where we're at. That's where your daughter-in-law is going to be. And if he needs respect from your daughter-in-law like he needs air to breathe, and there are about those 4 or 5 or 6 major walls that have to be overcome, your son is just going to withdraw. And your children are going to have children who will be your grandchildren, and the odds are there's going to be a divorce with your children, and your little precious grandchildren are going to be wetting the bed until they're 11 and crying themselves to sleep at night. If we don't change, you see, there are two sides of this equation. It's not just love, it is also respect. And we're going to point out to you that this needs to be heard and needs to be understood. And of course, we have to come to grips with what Jesus said. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And do we believe that God has spoken his last word? Listen to me, church. Come close. Listen to me. And if you listen, it'll be okay. But if you don't, that's why the prophets of old said the people of God are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And that's the lack of God's knowledge. We don't lack knowledge on information, I should say, about intimacy. We have more information today on intimacy than any other culture in the history of mankind. But the question is the information correct? Number two, is this why things get crazy? Yes. Without love, she reacts without respect, and without respect, he reacts without love. Round and round and round it goes. Dr. John Gottman at the University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years. He wrote a book called Why Marriages Succeed or Fail. He's probably the foremost quantitative researcher in the United States. He writes this: men are far more likely than women to be stonewallers, 85%. When tension builds, it often takes only the arrival of criticism. Men avoid emotional conflicts by going off by themselves. If you ask a male stonewaller to describe his state of mind, he often says, I'm trying not to react. The wife is likely to interpret his response as a rejection of her. She couldn't imagine needing to withdraw over such a minor criticism. Such interactions can produce a vicious cycle, especially marriages with high levels of conflict. The more wives complain and criticize, the more husbands withdraw and stonewall. The more husbands withdraw and stonewall, the more wives complain and criticize. This cycle must be broken if marriages are to avoid dissolution. If the wife becomes belligerent and contemptuous, the husband is likely to withdraw even more. So there you see the cycle. And what's interesting, that he, in fact, is pointing out these male and female differences. A wife tends to interpret things as rejection and as hostility, this lack of love. How does he interpret it? As contempt or disrespect. And that is fascinating, because what's interesting even more so, Dr. Gottman said that after studying all these couples, he said, we now know the two key ingredients for successful marriages. There are two key ingredients. This great secular researcher says we now know what they are. When they're present, the marriage will make it. When they're not present, the marriage won't. And he said it's love and respect. And when I came across that as an academic person, by the way, I'm educated beyond my intelligence. Just want you to know that. I mean, as I say, a label on an empty bottle is still an empty bottle. You know? So that didn't make a whole much difference. But as I pursued the academic stuff, I realized, whoa, and then I knew the scripture stuff. And he says love and respect. The Apostle Paul said that 2,000 years ago. And he was just as gender specific. She needs love primarily, and he needs respect primarily. Whew. Unbelievable. But here you see, again, some other passages. Colossians 3:19, husbands, love your wives. That's the agape. Here's 1 Peter 3, verses 1 and 2. Peter was asked by the women, my husband's disobedient to the word. My husband's disobedient. How do I win my husband? My husband's disobedient to the word. Here's what he says. Even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives as they observe your, here it is, respectful behavior. Unbelievable. Both Paul and Peter teach this. And what's even more interesting is that this man is disobedient to the word. And I'll come back to that in a moment, but let me just point out something. This man does not deserve respect. Number 3, are you sure love and respect are these deepest needs? Yes, science and Scripture reveal the code about the two deepest values and needs in marriage. Gottman's research that I just pointed out, also those 400 men that we looked at, I mean, it just keeps surfacing. But also you'll see in Scripture, for instance, a woman's need for love. Genesis 29:32, a wife says, surely now my husband will love me. You'll see in the Old Testament this ongoing refrain from women about being loved. Surely now my husband will love me. Judges 16:15, a wife says, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? Or what about the other side of this with King David? His first wife was Michal. She was the daughter of Saul, and it says twice, Michal loved David, Michal loved David. She helped David escape one time from her father. But then one day David was dancing before the Lord, and he was worshiping. And we pick it up. Michal saw David dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. She despised him in her heart. And David said, I will be more lightly esteemed. He was blown away. That marriage ended right there. Did you know that? That'd be like a man saying to a wife, let's get it straight. I never have loved you. I don't love you now, and I have no intentions of loving you. How long can that survive? How long can it despise when a woman says, let's get it straight. I never have respected you. I don't respect you now, and I'll never respect you. You're despicable. I despise you in my heart.